The entire village gathered beneath a large white canopy to celebrate Chief Edwin's 60th birthday. Traditional dancers filled the compound with music, while politicians, businessmen, pastors, and community leaders waited for the highlight of the celebration. Chief Edwin stood proudly beside a handsome young man dressed in an expensive navy blue suit. The master of ceremonies raised his voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 60 years on Earth and 35 years of building one of the biggest agricultural companies in the state, Chief Edwin has an important announcement.
Thunderous applause filled the air. Chief Edwin smiled as he held the microphone.
My friends, many of you know that I have waited almost 30 years for this day.
He placed a hand on the young man's shoulder.
Today, I officially present my only son and the heir to everything I have worked for.
Celebration. Some women ululated. Men clapped excitedly. Across the compound, 6 beautifully dressed young women remained seated without saying a word. They were all daughters of Chief Edwin. Not one of them smiled. Just as Chief Edwin stretched out his hand to embrace his son, an elderly lawyer rose from the front row.
Chief, before you do that, there is something you must know.
Applause slowly faded. Chief Edwin,
Barrister Okoye, whatever it is can wait until after the celebration. No, Chief. If I keep quiet today, an innocent family will lose everything.
The atmosphere suddenly changed. Everyone became quiet. The young man standing beside Chief Edwin shifted uneasily. The lawyer reached into his briefcase and brought out a brown envelope. He held it up.
I've carried this 3 years hoping you would discover the truth yourself. What truth? The young man you are about to make your heir has spent years planning the destruction of your family.
Edwin laughed loudly.
My son would never do such a thing.
The lawyer's face remained calm. Chief, he paused.
Because he is not the son you think he is.
Even the drummers stopped playing. The young man slowly stepped backwards. Chief Edwin's smile disappeared.
What nonsense are you talking about?
The lawyer opened the envelope. Before anyone could see what was inside, the story began 28 years earlier. Chief Edwin had everything a man could ask for. A thriving business, a beautiful wife, a large house, respect from the entire community. Only one thing was missing: a son. When his wife, Grace, became pregnant for the first time, Edwin bought baby clothes, toys, and even had a carpenter prepare a small wooden sign for the nursery. On it was written, Prince Okafor. He never erred preparing a girl's name. 9 months later, Grace gave birth. The nurse smiled as she carried the baby outside. Congratulations, sir. It's a beautiful baby girl. The smile on Edwin's face faded almost instantly.
A girl?
Yes.
He forced a smile for those around him, but inside, he felt disappointed. His mother noticed immediately.
Edwin, don't let the child see that look on your face.
There will be a son next time.
They named the baby Ada. Grace loved her with all her heart. Edwin provided everything she needed, but he never carried her for long. Whenever visitors admired the little girl, he always ended the conversation with the same sentence.
My son is still coming.
2 years later, Grace became pregnant again. This time, Edwin refused to let anyone buy baby clothes until the child arrived.
I don't want another disappointment.
What if God blesses us with another girl?
He smiled confidently. He won't. The delivery day came. Another girl. Her name was Chioma. Edwin left the hospital before his wife was discharged. That evening, Grace found him sitting alone in the living room.
You didn't even carry her.
I don't know what I've done to deserve this.
Grace sat beside him.
You've done nothing wrong.
My father had 4 sons. My grandfather had 5. I am the first man in my family without a son.
Grace gently held his hand. Our daughters are blessings too. Edwin quietly withdrew his hand.
They are not the same.
Years passed. A third pregnancy. Another girl, then a fourth. The whispers began. Neighbors spoke behind Grace's back. Maybe she's cursed. Others blamed Edwin. Some advised him to marry another wife. His own relatives constantly reminded him.
A tree without a son eventually loses its name.
Those words slowly poisoned Edwin's mind. He stopped eating dinner with his family. He spent more time at work than at home. His daughters waited every evening for their father. Sometimes they would hear his car enter the compound and run excitedly toward the gate. Before they reached him, he would already be inside his study. One rainy evening, 6-year-old Ada made a birthday card with colored pencils. She waited until Edwin entered the house. "Daddy," he turned. She smiled brightly. "I made this for you." He looked at the card. On it was a drawing of the whole family. Grace, for little girls, and Edwin standing in the middle holding all their hands. At the top she had written in shaky handwriting, "My best daddy." Edwin glanced at it for only a second. "I'm tired." He handed it back and walked inside. Ada stood in the rain, still holding the card. Grace watched from the doorway. She quietly hugged her daughter. That night, she found the birthday card soaked by the rain. She dried it carefully and placed it inside her Bible. Years later, that same card would become the one thing Edwin wished he had never ignored. 5 years passed. Grace became pregnant again. The whole village waited. Even Edwin organized a Thanksgiving service before the delivery.
My son is finally coming.
People congratulated him in advance. On the day of delivery, the doctor walked out slowly. His expression said everything. Edwin's heart sank. Another girl. He didn't ask about Grace. He didn't ask whether the baby was healthy. He simply walked to his car and drove away. For 3 days, he never visited the hospital. Grace cried every night, not because she had given birth to another daughter, but because she knew her husband was slowly becoming a stranger. When mother and baby finally returned home, the compound was silent. No musicians, no celebration, no naming ceremony. Grace named the little girl herself Hope, because despite everything, she still believed God could heal her family. Little did she know, the greatest storm was yet to come. The arrival of Hope did not soften Edwin's heart. Instead, it hardened it. He buried himself in work and stayed away from home for days at a time. The laughter of his daughters, which once filled the compound, slowly disappeared. They learned not to run to the gate anymore because they already knew their father would walk past them without a smile. Grace noticed a change in each of them. Ada, the eldest, stopped drawing. Chioma no longer asked when Daddy would return. The third daughter, Esther, began believing she had done something wrong. The fourth, Ruth, avoided looking her father in the eyes. Little Hope hardly knew the sound of his voice. One evening, Grace gathered them together. She looked into their innocent faces and said quietly,
Never think your father doesn't love you because of who you are. Sometimes adults make painful mistakes. Promise me you'll never hate him.
I promise.
The girls nodded, though none of them truly understood. Weeks later, Grace discovered she was pregnant again. This time, fear entered her heart instead of joy. She sat alone on the veranda for hours before telling Edwin. He looked at her silently. Then he smiled for the first time in months. This is it. Grace lowered her eyes. We don't know that. I know. He immediately instructed his workers to repaint one of the rooms in blue. A tiny wardrobe was bought. Little shirts, tiny shoes, even a football. Grace walked into the room one afternoon and tears filled her eyes. What if? Edwin interrupted her. There will be no what if. 9 months later, the labor lasted almost 12 hours. Edwin paced outside the maternity ward like a man waiting for a court judgment. Family members surrounded him, praying. The doctor finally stepped outside. He removed his face mask. Congratulations. Edwin smiled. Your wife delivered safely. My son. The doctor's smile faded slightly. A beautiful baby girl. It felt as though time stopped. Edwin stared at the doctor. No, I'm sorry. No. His voice echoed through the corridor. You've made a mistake. The doctor shook his head. There is no mistake. Edwin pushed past him and entered the ward. Grace lay on the hospital bed, exhausted but smiling weakly as she cradled the newborn. "Look at her," she whispered. "Isn't she beautiful?" Edwin didn't even look. He stood at the foot of the bed, breathing heavily. Then, in front of the nurses, doctors, and patients, he said words that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "I've had enough." Grace's smile disappeared. "Edwin, I can't continue like this. Please,